Welcome, Restoration Nation, to this episode of Scaling and Selling for Independent Restoration Owners. My name is Matthew Sharpe. My wife and I grew from scratch a company in the Bay Area, California, and we grew it to end up selling to private equity, to Guardian. We were the platform company, and we worked with them to take the company to the next level, and it's still dominating in growing, scaling quickly in the Bay Area to this day. So, it is our heart and mission to give back to the industry that greatly changed our life and our family's life, and we're so thankful for that. So we specifically were an independent restoration company, and so we know how to scale that type of business, and we focused on mitigation only. So we did a largest portion water damage, because that's where the highest margins were, and contents, a little bit of mold, and of course fire damage. So we did some reconstruction, we know all about that, but we wanted to grow. We believe that there's infinite opportunity to grow and scale where the highest margins were, primarily water damage and of course some fire. So now that is our goal, to give back and help. If you are out there and you are a construction company, you're wanting to grow your water damage, your mitigation department, if you are a plumber, you're wanting to add that in, or if you're doing a lot of TPA work and you want to add independent work in there, that's what these videos are here to help you to do, and that's what we specialize in. So now, this episode, I'm going to talk a lot about selling and the differences between TPA and independent work and the laws that surround that, okay? So it's basically a much different mind shift and legal shift of how you handle and how you run your company, or that side of your company. So now, we came from California. So there's two states that really pioneer the heavy laws that are created in dealing with homes, especially around insurance claims and working on them in general. So the insurance companies are the big Goliath. They are the big giants that have the money, the billions of dollars, and the power, and they lobby hard to get the laws changed in their favor. So the states that have the most claim loss are the ones that they lobby the most hard on to get changed, the laws changed in their favor. So first comes Florida. They are always the pioneers. So whatever happens in Florida from all the hurricanes ends up trickling over to California. And California is second because of all the wildfires. They really lose a lot of money, have lost a lot of money with the wildfires the last decade or so. And so those laws trickle over there. So some of you maybe have, a lot of these laws have already trickled into other states. And if you haven't experienced it yet, it's going to probably trickle in your state soon. And this video is going to help you to make those shifts now, or make those shifts if you want to grow the independent side of your company, or maybe have to make those shifts in the future, okay? Again, I'm not a lawyer, so every state has different laws. So consult with a lawyer in your state. We had about 5 different lawyers that we'd worked with. We usually had about 3 at one time for different parts of the company. So, consult with multiple different lawyers, but talk to other restoration companies, find the good lawyers, have good contracts built, really know the laws of residential versus commercial, really understand the laws of, how to navigate the claims world. So a lot of independent adjusters work with PAs, work with a lot of lawyers. So you can, a lot of lawyers will work with you free for 1 hour, and you can gather all that knowledge. So we've met with, dozens of lawyers to just, either work on our contracts or get to know them and get to know the laws and what we do. So it's going to be very key in growing the independent side. Now, when it comes to contracts, for example, when you have a TPA, third-party company, right, vendor program work, the insurance company here is getting the claim. They're giving it to the third party so that they don't have the liability of the work that you're doing, and then you get the job. So then the third party is not liable for the work really either. You are. And so you can typically, when you go to sell these jobs, right, you're just really getting a work authorization, sign a 2-pager or a digital a couple of pages. Hey, I'm going to work on your home. We're going to not bill you. We're going to bill the third party. Right? And so any customer can easily sign that. Nothing to worry about. We're here under the name of your insurance company. We'll take care of everything for you. Sign here, right? So anybody should be able to sign that. You should be selling 99% of the jobs as long as the homeowner feels safe. Whoever that person that is coming by there, they don't feel, unsafe by that type of person. So have your people look clean cut, nice dressed. You should get that signed all day long. All right, so if you're doing independent work, you're trying to grow work outside of the third parties, right? So first you obviously have to market to get those, or business development, all right? You got to get the jobs coming in, and then you've got to then sign. So like in California, for example, they give you a 30-page, on the state's website, a 30-page contract that contractors are supposed to use, all right, when they sign residential properties, okay? So that page has all the information the customer's supposed to know when hiring somebody to work on their home, all the legal stuff if disputes arrive, how much time they have to cancel, to change their mind, all these things, right? So that is much different trying to get 30 pages signed as an independent restoration company versus a 2-page, work authorization. Okay, so that can be a big shift just right there if you're used to doing TPA work, okay? And so you'll have to now really be very good at sales and learn sales and, create your company into a sales company or a sales division when you're trying to grow that independent side. So you'll hear all day long on all the restoration forums talking about onboarding. There's a real education that takes place, okay? So that is a big shift for most companies. So there are very fine-tuned sales processes. That's not what this video is going to be about, but we'll make another video about that later on. But, fine-tuned sales process to get the customer to feel comfortable and educated properly to be able to sign that, okay? Now, I've seen people get independent work and they'll still have the customer just, sign the same 2-pager. And that may work for a long time while you're smaller, but when you become bigger and you become a target against these Goliaths, they will try to do lawfare against you. So when we first started, we weren't using the 2-pagers very long. We consulted a bunch of lawyers, but even then, if we didn't have a certain font right or the latest edition of the California construction contract, they would try to not pay us. The insurance companies wouldn't. So again, the bigger we grew, the more they would try to find any way to leverage not to pay us. So imagine you're doing like a $20,000 job, whatever size job it is, and all of a sudden they say, well, you're in violation of the state laws, we're not going to pay you, and come fight us for the money, right? And so that's a very difficult situation to be in, right? So that was my biggest fear, to do a large job. We did a lot of large jobs, $100,000, $150,000 job, and not get paid. So we made sure to go to the nth degree of working with a ton of lawyers to have this process be, as bulletproof as possible to defend ourselves. And so we won, thankful to God. I'm a believer in God. We won every court instance we've been in that we had to go after our customers who didn't pay us. Nothing ever stuck on us because we protected ourselves. But again, as we grew bigger, we became a bigger target. The insurance companies tried everything, but through the whole process, we learned to fine-tune our contracts, fine-tune our approach, abide within the laws, and continue to be successful and ready for whenever those situations occurred, and train our whole team accordingly. So it's now I just spoke on, residential. So you have the residential work. Now commercial work is a bit different. Commercial work, you can give a T&M, time and materials based work service agreement, right? And that's kind of what a 2-pager typically is. It ends up being a lot less pages to sign. So, and some of your 2-pagers, you're like, well, we're just going to work for your independent company, we're going to use Xactimate and we're going to send it out later. So now if you are doing T&M, it's still very helpful to give a price up front. So it's good for your customer. It's good for the whole job process, for job costing. There's a whole bunch of reasons on that. And there's softwares out there that can help you to do that. So you typically want to give at least a 1-day price, and what the price is going to be, if you have the 1 day, at least every day after that, most likely. Or you can have a 3-day price you're giving, a 5-day, 7-day, whatnot, or you can give a whole price of the job up front. So again, it's very helpful. Even in commercial, though you're not required to give a whole price up front, it's very helpful to do that. So in residential, you are allowed to give what's called a not to exceed. So if I think this job is like $20,000, I could tell the customer, hey, I think it's around $20,000, but I'm just going to put it $30,000 in case maybe there's mold or there's some unforeseen stuff. Maybe it takes longer to dry. Maybe there's asbestos. So I'm going to just put this job for $30,000 so I don't have to issue a bunch of change orders. Okay. And so then the customer maybe say, oh, well, I don't like that. I don't want to sign. Well, okay. Well, let me give you a 7-day and I'm just going to give you what I think the cost is. And I'm not going to do anything unforeseen, but I'm going to have to give you a change order. Most customers don't like that, but it's not a big deal. If other stuff arises, it takes longer, costs more, we'll give you a change order. Okay. So no big deal. They can do that. So in order to give that price up front on residential, I either got to be able to have Xactimate Mobile on my iPad or laptop, be able to write it up right there, or give a T&M price right there. But if I'm trying to 3D scan the place and then I got to go send it off, or I just take measurements on a piece of paper, have a tech take measurements, right, and then go type it up at the office and send it 2 days later to the next day or 3 days later to the customer, you're going to really lose a lot of jobs there. Okay. And in business, they all talk about to grow any company, you typically got to be a marketing company and a sales company. All right. So most other industries, they're not working with insurance claims to just sign up for some program and get work from them. So that's the approach. So you've got, your sales are going to dramatically drop. Okay. If you are taking multiple days to get back to them. So in water damage, your sales are going to go from, the best sales guys out there would have 90-95% closing, ratio. That means, 9 out of 10 jobs plus that they go to, they're selling. You have to give a price on the job right then for them to sign. If you are giving them a price later that evening, the next day, 3 days later, your sales is going to probably drop to 20 to 30%. I mean, that's a huge drop. So you're not going to be doing sales. You have the opportunity, your emergency company, to get out there right then, get the job started, and get them a price up front. So that is going to be a huge shift from doing program work to doing independent work. And so again, you're gonna have to hire people that can sell. You're going to have to train everybody to get a price out there quickly. And you're going to have to be able to get change orders out there quickly. But that shift is going to help bring, but then you're not giving a cut of your work to the programs, then the programs, the profits of your work to the programs to be a part of them. The programs aren't beating down your price and your cost. You can have your own price that you've created to do that. So that money goes in your pocket, but you're going to have to spend more on hiring business developers and doing online marketing and the other things to get that work to come in. It's going to cost you. So one way or another, you're going to either have to pay Google, pay business developers, pay for referrals, or you're going to have to take a hit on the TPA work. So choose your poison. So typically in the investment world, they like to see private equity. We got to see a little bit under the hood. They like to see, a smaller percentage of TPA work and a large percentage of independent work. And so everybody has a different route, a different business model, different approach, but that's what we did. That's what we grew. That's what we specialize in. And so if you want to grow more of independent work in your company, just give it a like, follow, subscribe, and we have a whole lot more coming for you. So thanks for watching this episode. Matthew Sharpe.